This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com. This show is brought to you by IndyWrestling.us. Check out IWC, RWA, and more. And listeners like you, support this show at patreon.com/Wrestling Mayhem Show.
Hungry as fuck, but I ain't starving yet. Chain for the pain, cocktail dog set. Never said I was a gangster or thug, but I'm an animal. Feeding for the taste of the fly.
Hey guys, it is the Indie Mayhem Show. I'm Mike Sorgatron on the Twitter here in the Sorgatron Media Studios in Pittsburgh, PA. And this is the show where we talk about people in and around independent professional wrestling. And sometimes we have panels. And it seemed right to bring back a panel. We brought back an exact panel that we had a little bit ago. But in the meantime, please go check out everything at WrestlingMayhemShow.com. And a lot of people we do have on the show. And some of the feds that we talk about are over at IndyWrestling.us as well as more. I'm sorry, somebody is Vanna Whiting what my intro apparently over here. But go check that out. And of course, drop us a line, good times at WrestlingMayhemShow.com at 412-206-WMS0. To let us know if you have any suggestions on people to talk to, panels that you'd like to hear. We can put some other stuff together than intergender wrestling. I'm sure there's plenty of other topics out there. But what's that? Spider-Man. It's like Spider-Man in wrestling and how that'll get you booked at Rise. But anyways, we have the return panel with us. First of all, Emily Fear is with us of the. Oh no! Now it blanked. Talking Honor. Thank you. I'm like, no, that's too simple of a title, but that's exactly it. The Talking Honor podcast over at the PW Torch.
Yep. Hi.
Thank you for joining us again.
Thanks for having me back.
Also, I'm back once again sharing a microphone is Jinx.
Hey, what's up?
Oh, and Honey Badger.
The conjoined twins.
Yes.
Back
Well,
again.
Well, last time you shared a mic, it got a lot of GIF play. So
Yeah, which, we just have to do it for the internet.
There you go. It's for you guys out there. And also head of talent relations over at Rise Wrestling. This Rise with a Y.
Yes.
Is Marcus Mann.
Yes, I'm wearing my hashtag new knees tonight. Morgan Rockefeller's t-shirt and Jack Pollock's hat. Both have had recent knee surgeries, so they're hashtag team new knees.
Oh my God.
Well, there's an intergender team we can have.
That
Yes.
is.
Oh, yeah.
So that's why I'm wearing their stuff tonight.
That's perfect.
Since they just Morgan had her knee surgery. It was about a year ago, and then
Mhm.
Pollock just had his recently. So they're now hashtag
Literally
team
a
new
day.
knees.
It wasn't 24 hours ago as of
yesterday.
this
Yeah.
recording,
Yeah.
actually. So
Yeah,
and it sounds like he's doing pretty good with that.
yeah. He was texting me today about Batman versus Superman, so he's doing all right.
Oh, good. He's so
That timely topic.
back
Yeah.
to
Isn't it-
normal.
Yeah, he's back to normal. He was watching the extended cut and was like, "This is so good." I was like, "All right." He's definitely on pain pills.
Wow. Good
Wow.
shit he's on, I guess.
Yes.
So Marcus, I think messaged me probably about a month ago and said, "Hey, we should do another intergender panel again." And I'm like, I don't know if enough has happened
Yeah.
since we've talked in
I think I was
September.
just bored.
You're just like, I want to do something.
Yeah.
And
Let's
then-
do it right now.
Let's
Yeah.
do it. Like, why not? Like, we can get together. Like, what else are we doing? And then,
Right.
like, actual things happened.
Yeah.
Like, quickly.
very quickly. Very quickly.
Immediately, honestly.
And very quickly and on like probably the biggest stage at this time of the year with the Royal Rumble in front of 50,000 people. Of course, the big news, if you haven't heard, Nia Jax involved in the men's Royal Rumble, plus a whole lot of other stuff happened on the show. But that's the big one there where she mixed it up with R-Truth, taking him out, and got in a match and did some stuff with, I believe, Mustafa Ali, Randy Orton, and Rey Mysterio. If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, and that just lit the internet on fire as far as the discussion around intergender wrestling. And I get that was the perfect time to bring everybody back. And because, I literally a week before on a Mayhem show or somewhere, somebody like pointed, it's like, do you think WWE would do intergender anytime soon? I said, absolutely not.
Yeah.
And this just changed the whole
crazy.
game for it.
I think we were all in that boat. Like, of
Yeah.
like a WWE. Vince isn't going to do it. There's no way Vince would do it on his shows. And I even talked about last night that I was like, well, Hunter might on like a NXT house shows or something. They
Yeah.
might creep
Level.
it in. They might.
Yeah.
It's this test those waters. And then all of a sudden Vince was just like, oh, we're just doing this at the Royal Rumble, like in the end of the night,
yeah.
the biggest moment of the night.
Yeah.
Mm.
Like I didn't see that coming, like at all.
There had been rumors going around of
I should read rumors.
I know, right? Like 2 or 3 people came up. It's like, oh, this is what I read, that Becky is going to lose that title match and then come in and like take out R-Truth,
Yeah, of course.
and win the men's rumble to get her title shot against Ronda.
Okay.
And
Which
I'm
would
just
make
like-
no sense.
Make no
Yeah,
sense.
because
No.
that would not.
Be awful.
Because you can't win like the Royal Rumble, like the men's Royal Rumble, and challenge for like any title.
Well, that was what Nia was trying to do.
Was it?
Was it?
Or was
Is-
she just
is it?
kind of like, I'll go for the heavyweight title. Let me
Yeah.
fuck
I mean,
up
out of
Brock
any of the
Lesnar real
women
quick.
Well,
on
what-
the roster that could get away with holding a heavyweight title.
True.
Yeah, you're right.
Like, I don't know if that was a point, but like if Seth Rollins can, like, I guess he could go like, all right, well, I won the Royal Rumble. I want to face the NXT UK champion. Like, that's not
Yeah.
not the purpose of the Royal Rumble. I don't
Right.
think. So like, you couldn't win like the men's Royal Rumble and then face like any champ. So I don't know, like, how would Becky win the men's Rumble and then face a woman? That doesn't really like.
Either way,
But here's the thing: it doesn't make any sense that you can just beat someone up and take their spot in the Royal Rumble. Either.
right.
Like,
No.
that doesn't make any sense.
Wrestling makes no sense. in
No,
general.
I don't like that.
But
Also-
yeah,
yeah. Like, my big complaint was like, you have so many surprises. Why'd she need to beat someone up?
Mhm.
I guess just to be 30.
yeah.
Did
Just-
this come about because R-Truth wasn't a good number 30 because the mixed match challenge got blown up so bad?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's because he would just be so lackluster.
Yeah.
So lackluster.
Because like, does anyone like? Because I followed a little bit of the mixed match challenge, like here or there, like because I don't.
It's not good.
All right, I don't want
Well,
to.
I mean, well, like
I didn't
every
watch enough to know
every
if it's good or
major
not.
team got mixed up for you know,
Yeah,
for
like, everyone got hurt or like stuff happened
Yeah.
or like, it was just a bad year for it. I think.
yeah. Well, it wasn't even a year later. It was like 3 months
They
later
did
that
it
they did this.
instantly later. Like instantly after.
And it was a whole new format that took like twice as long.
Mm-hmm.
It was like this round robin format. I didn't even stick with it to see how it went.
Yeah.
But more I heard about like the changing up the teams for one reason or another. Plus, it was going to finish on a pay-per-view, so you knew anybody involved that was involved with anything else was probably not going to get in the finals. Like it kind of wrote itself into a corner,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but it's still been something interesting that's been at least the first one I thought was a good
Yeah.
mixing up of
Yeah.
And they do a
male-female
little bit of
talent.
intergender in them.
yeah.
Like it's usually like
They have moments.
It's
just a
started to-
baby face woman will like drop kick a dude and that's like about it. Like,
Yeah.
like small little ones here. But that's the pop of the match anytime it happens.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's
Like,
true.
It is.
But
Like-
the biggest thing about what made the Nia Jax thing so big was that there were like
Full contact.
there was full contact,
Mhm.
like dudes hitting her back.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It wasn't just like honestly, if she just went in and there was no full contact, like it wasn't like a punch for punch, she took a move thing, I'd be pissed.
Yeah.
I'd be so mad because I'd be like, you literally just let it would just be exactly what they've always done.
Mhm.
And
Burying Nia.
that, but like just giving the concept of like, oh, this will get the pop, but we're not gonna act like a woman can actually hang here.
Mhm.
If I'm not mistaken, like wasn't like when Natalia was in it, or was it Beth?
Beth.
When Beth was in it, and did she get like eliminated by like making out with Kali or something?
No,
Yes.
she eliminated
So, like, if
Kali.
I'm wrong-
I'm
yeah,
glad
Yeah.
my memory
by like making out
Yeah.
with them.
blanked that out.
Correct.
Yeah, so from what I can tell, Nia Jax's performance at the Royal Rumble was basically mimicked the same pattern that they've done with every woman that they've put in the men's Rumble. Well,
Mhm.
back then it was just Rumble because they only had the women's Rumble recently. So so like they come in, they eliminate one man through whatever means necessary, I suppose, and then they're quickly eliminated themselves.
Yeah.
But the difference with Nia is that she actually did receive a much more contact
Oh,
than,
yeah.
Exactly.
like the other
Yeah.
women, even like China when she was in it.
Yeah.
She took like multiple finishers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
I
there's
think
that,
she took Dolph's super kick,
Yeah.
RKO, and a 619.
Yeah. There's that moment when her and like Randy Orton are like staring off, and like you get the vibe of the crowd is like they're just RKO her. Just I want you
They
to
were
do it. I
so
want you
excited.
to do it. Like I want you to RKO her right now. Like it's like that. Like you know that vibe you give to a crowd when like Steve Austin's out there and people are like, I just want to see a stunner. Like just like anyone.
I just want to
a
see him
referee,
flip him off and
yeah,
stun him.
like anyone. And like you got that vibe. Like everyone in the crowd wanted it really bad. And then they didn't do it, and I was like, "Oh, like they're not gonna RKO her." And then it was like, "Bing bang!"
It was
like,
awesome.
It was perfect.
It was planned perfect because you're right. There was that moment where we were all sitting there like, they're really just gonna have it not like they're really just gonna.
I thought she was gonna set up the 619. She was gonna try and hit Ray, and Ray would low bridge her, and she'd go
Exactly.
Yeah.
I thought it was gonna be something like that, but
Something wasted.
exactly, they were just gonna like throw it away. But you're right. It went down and then brought you right back up.
Yeah.
And the thing is that I think makes it so incredible is that between the crowd and like the internet hysteria afterwards, everything's been so positive and so excited about it. Like, it's been such a positive and incredible like response to having a woman go punch for punch and go full contact in a Royal Rumble with men, which is awesome.
Well, it's just that thing that I think some independent promotions or just anyone not convinced by it, like if the Fed is doing it, like what more of a green light do you need?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, and especially if that's the vibe you got from the crowd, it's like almost like the crowd wanted intergender wrestling, and
For
it made
sure.
sense. Like again, you sent the biggest woman in there, you know, and she not only held her own, but she sold. Like she didn't, it's not like she no sold or she, you know what I mean? Anything like that. So once again, it's like, what more do you need to say
Right.
like, this is what your crowd is ready for? Like any market needs something fresh. You cannot keep churning out the same material and expect to keep your audience, you know, it's why I quit Walking Dead, like into season 3. I'm like, oh, Carl's missing. Okay, we're doing this again.
Can only do the same thing with the same people.
Still
so
30
many
seconds
times.
of good zombie footage. Okay, I'm out. Like, do you know what I mean? Like,
Cool.
you have to do something different. So it's just, I just hope that other people who are very anti putting it on their show, it's like, oh, okay, maybe we do have a market. in
Right.
this.
It's not just hitting away on like extended cable on Lucha Underground anymore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, where they're doing things and, you know, Brian Cage, you know, in intergender matches is, you know,
And then like maybe someone finds it on the internet.
yeah. Or, you know, the interpromotion
shows and
bar
stuff,
shows,
you know.
yeah.
What's it called? Jordan Grace tore up the house on,
All in.
yes.
And that
All In.
was
Yeah.
on television on WGN.
That was because
Yeah.
it was
As
during
the
the
pre-show.
battle. Yeah, that was during the battle royale.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's boggling to me, and that was also on a show that ended up being streamed and like signed off on by Ring of Honor, and like as someone who really supports intergender wrestling and who watches Ring of Honor really faithfully and covers it as both like a fan and as just in general, it's maddening to me that WWE has more faith in its audience to accept intergender wrestling than Ring of Honor has faith in its audience to accept it.
Yeah.
Considering that like
Which is crazy.
they both have like conservative backers. So
I was gonna say, is that more Sinclair or is that more Ring of Honor? Do you think? I mean, as someone who covers it more.
But McMahon, Sinclair, potato, like
Yeah, but I feel like Vince is more like Vince is very conservative. Don't get me wrong, but I think Vince will do anything for a buck. Where I don't think Sinclair is like as carny.
I also don't think that Sinclair is paying as close of attention.
Okay.
As McMahon is paying attention to
I would agree with
his
that.
product.
I would
The
agree
thing
with
that
that
might have even sold McMahon is they might have opened up with, so we're going to have Nia take 3 finishers. Like anything to bury Nia, they're probably like, oh, Jesus, I can't sign this fast enough. Like,
I think, and Nia's been Triple H's like project for a long, long time.
she needs to own her size. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying like all of that is like on Nia.
Like work rate wise, or
Just like even like going in the Rumble, it's like you're bigger than most of these dudes. Like that's why I watch her so closely, and I try to almost like learn from her a lot, just for the fact that she's obviously on like the Fed and she's obviously on TV and making way more money than I am. But like you're bigger than some of these dudes. Like there is no reason you should even like cower or just like even just like in her walk. Like you can totally see.
I would say like I can't believe in Nia Jax because Nia doesn't believe in herself. Like I can
That's a really good way
see-
to put it,
I can
actually.
see she doesn't believe she's that character. Like if you took Tamina's confidence and put it in Nia, she'd be a complete wrestler.
Oh, she'd be unstoppable. She
Yeah.
also needs to. I don't know if she's letting someone else make her gear, but Jesus Christ, give Nia a flattering
Mhm.
gear just once.
Oh
That's been a
God.
problem for a
just
while.
once.
Yeah.
My girlfriend was watching with me and she was like, that blue gear does not look good. And
No.
I was like, I don't want to say anything.
I feel like
'cause
I
don't
don't know if they do it on purpose. I don't know if the seamstress or whoever she's going through like does not know like how to but like she's a model and like any other full photo you see of her, like when she dresses herself, she looks half if not less the size than when she's in wrestling gear. And coming from someone who's bigger and has to like that's one of my biggest challenges was like finding gear that was like flattering and also like good, it like worked in the ring. Is like I understand how tricky it is, and if you don't have someone that's good at it, like I've seen girls say, like, "Oh yeah, I paid $300 for this," and it's basically like a too small swimsuit with some straps on it, and I'm like, "Oh girl," like, so it's just it's little things like that too. Like I don't know if that's playing part of it. Like she maybe doesn't have as much say in like her look or what. Like she shouldn't even come out to like that cute song.
I'm not like most girls. Shut up.
So I'm not,
Oh man,
I keep saying
that's our market.
I keep saying it sounds like
our
I'm
mixtape.
not a lobster.
I'm not.
I'm not.
And that'll ruin it for everybody out there. We got
I've
some,
ruined it for everyone.
we
'cause
do have
every
some-
time I hear I'm not a lobster.
some comments from the chat room here.
That's
Dave Potter, I'll shout out his Tiny Shutter podcast while he's in here. It says, on a serious note, is one of the biggest shocks that WWE actually pulled it off, especially, or is that they pulled it off, especially with how they are handling people like Mandy and Alexa on other shows.
Yeah, I don't know what the goal is.
Emily, I think you shuddered over that one.
They have so many people. They have so many women wrestlers who are amazing at intergender wrestling,
Yeah.
and they are so badly mistreating them
Mhm.
in the storylines that they have put them in, and have completely like lost the plot on so many of these women that they've put in NXT and elsewhere that have this know-how that could do these matches, and they even have storylines that they could work them into. One of the most frustrating things is that now, full disclosure, I don't follow WWE closely. I don't watch any of it. I don't subscribe to the network. I don't do it. But I do keep track because just like everybody else who's
You
on
have to.
wrestling
Yeah.
social media, like everyone else
You
does.
gotta.
Mhm.
But so just this past year with like everything that was happening with Gargano and Ciampa and in NXT and having Candace right there in the midst of it and not being able
That
to
moment where we thought we were going to see Ciampa and like Candace, like we're like, is this happening?
Right.
Insane.
No.
Yeah.
But no. So it is incredible to me that they actually did commit to a moment,
Yeah.
a big moment for
Mhm.
intergender wrestling. But it is a little frustrating that it was that moment.
And it's like
Yeah.
2 weeks after we felt like WWE thought they were in the Attitude Era with and again with Alexa and Mandy doing these like half naked like scenes in the back,
Right.
Yeah.
right? For why?
Yeah, and
Like-
I did
like-
I've joked like, and this sounds like it's such a terrible thing to say, but it's like, you know, sometimes you want to say like, congratulations, women, you now reached the quality of you're also going to get lost in completely stupid storylines that have no point, as a lot of dudes have
Yeah.
for like
Yeah.
so many years.
True equality in WWE means everyone gets screwed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
right.
everyone has no idea what to do with you
was-
whatsoever.
yeah,
Like
I
they
was
don't have
gonna-
any idea what to do with Alexa Bliss. They also have no idea what to do with Dean
And
Ambrose.
unfortunately,
Like-
that kind of goes to
like
that. There's they go to what they know, which is that
which
old
is
kind of
yeah,
idea.
and like, and I don't know who's in the writers' room anymore because they switch so often of like who's really writing this product, and like you also have to understand like it's such a different product where like NXT, these guys work it all out so ahead of time because they do these tapings over like, you know, a couple hours, like a month's taping over a
Yeah.
couple hours,
yeah,
where like you could work all week as a WWE writer for a fantastic Mandy Rose storyline, and then you get there and Vince goes like, I don't like it, come up with something else in the next 15 minutes. And it's like, just
She
a hotel
wants
room?
Jimmy Uso.
Like, what else do I got? I got nothing here. I got to come up with an idea in 15 minutes. We're on live in 2 hours. Like, we got to figure this out. And so, like, I think that's also the problem is, like, the other wrestling, because of how they tape, there's an ability to really plan out your stories. And then with Raw and SmackDown, like I said, you come in and just, if Vince doesn't like your idea, like, scrap, come with something else, but they have to be on the show. Figure it out now. I think that is also like a huge problem for women and men on the product, but specifically for Mandy Rose, they have no idea what they're doing with her.
BC Steele's pointing out here, and I feel like this is something we discussed on the last one. Huge problem of mainstream wrestling is having a team of writers, male writing for women, and again, like there needs to be women writers for women's storylines, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, hey, there was a women's director for Wonder Woman, and look how well that worked.
Yeah, Patty Jenkins is very like we're guilty of that. Even I'll admit it at Rise that we don't have a woman on creative. Creative is like 99.9% of it is me and Shirley Doe. Like, and it's just the two of us pretty much doing everything. So like I have like we've tried really hard for her, and I have two women that I book here, and they're gonna say nice things because I'm their boss. But like I try very, very hard when we write our storylines for women to at least get like at least some sort of input, or at least try to like what do you, like especially because you and London just had a pretty good story.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
But we just booked it like we would have like any other story we tried on the show.
I didn't. There was no point in me in London where I felt like it was any different because we were women.
Yeah,
you know, which I think is a thing on a lot of shows where it's like, here's the designated women's wrestling match. But that's the thing I loved about that storyline was that it didn't feel like there was any sort of like, for lack of a better term, any sort of like feminine quality to the storyline. It was just people that really didn't fucking like each other.
Yeah.
And
what's it like having a singles women's match at Rise, by the way?
You've been don't yell at me.
You just said that booking is 99.9%.
Hey, wow,
and there's two people, so you have a lot of pull.
I do have a lot of pull.
It's okay. I know you're scared.
No, it's not scared. You just got to make some dates.
Can I ask a question on that though?
Yeah.
What benefits would there be to like adding a female creative voice to the situation you have now? And I actually more addressing that towards Jinx and Badger.
So, go ahead. Yeah.
It's hard to say because I think it also depends on the woman. And I think it would be, I think, a whole different story to have a female booking in someone like WWE or like Ring of Honor. I think that Ring of Honor would really benefit from having a woman helping write with them. But I think that a more higher up company, it's a little different, where in indie wrestling, I just like, it's really hard for me to think of a woman that could make like a difference on a creative team. You know, I think, and if it was a company like Rise or IWC, anything like that, it's like, it's a little bit harder to think of. Like,
I think it's tricky because there's no real, and hopefully no one gets mad, but there's no veteran talent that's consistently in Pittsburgh. Yeah. I think that's your trick is you have a lot of great veteran women who have done amazing things, but they're constantly just basically climbing the ladder to the next goal. And they don't just hopefully in, future years, we do have some people who just decide to stay home. And this is for anywhere. This could be Ohio. This could be in the South. This could be, California, Chicago, wherever. Hopefully promoters or companies are just smart enough to say, hey, I know you're not really doing the wrestling thing, but
help us. Yeah.
No one really retires from wrestling. Or if they actually do, it's like, okay, cool. Let's take all of your experience and all of your personal feelings and use it to our benefit.
And this is something that, again, I don't think there's been a time, let's say the last 5-10 years, where there's been as many, viable women's talent out there to do this. Like that there is Rise with an I and Shimmer that's helping with this. So maybe it's in another 5-10 years, some of that talent sticks around on the home base and does get to do that.
There's a level of, especially locally, that there was so few women's talent breaking through. And that has so much to do with the training schools, so much to do with the booking of women in general in that era, that you really had to stick through a lot of nonsense to get anything. And then even if you did break through, there was two types of women, which are the manager sometimes would have a match type of woman. And Morgan's one of my good friends. That's why I'm wearing her shirt. She did a lot of intergender here or there, but also you manage the show and you don't do that. And she dealt with a lot of crap in her wrestling career to try and get to a level where she was considered serious. And then you had a lot of women we'll use out of Ohio PA, recently you look at like Britt Baker and Ray Lynn, who have broken out and have been very, very good women's wrestlers, but because there's like not as much national, like they get snatched. So like Ray Lynn is in Japan and she's wrestling in all over the place.
Just debuted on WoW on
WoW and
Access.
stuff. So Ray Lynn's going to get picked
Yeah.
out of this area, and Ray
Yeah.
Lynn's going to go on to something. Now, if Ray Lynn comes back to this area after all that's done, that's different. Like for our company, if I had a local Lufisto, she'd be on creative.
Yeah,
Mhm.
for sure.
You know, like that's a woman who's been around and knows not just like there's a difference between knowing wrestling and knowing how to book wrestling and be creative, and
Psychology.
she really knows her stuff.
Yeah.
She's very, very good. So if I had someone around that way, and this isn't disrespect, like the most of the female talent in Pittsburgh right now is very, very young.
Yeah.
They're probably within like 5 years or less around the area, and that it's just a different mentality as well of like, okay, like even like let's say, and I'm for example, like two women here, if they were both like, hey, we want to do something like this, you know, we're considered like interested in booking. There's a level of commitment of time as well to one promotion. And they're still young enough in their careers and they still want to do enough stuff that the seminars where you're going out to Chicago or you're trying to make dates in Ohio or New York or those types of places don't give you the ability to really commit to, okay, this is the thing I'm doing. Because like from someone who was managing, which I wasn't taking a ton of dates, but then when I took over creative, like this is all I do now. Like I don't have time for anything else. Like I'm 100% committed to this at all times. So like it's harder when you're younger in your career to really devote to creative and devote to storytelling and something like that.
You have to have, that's when you do have to have people do it for you, especially in independent wrestling, because it is so like, you have to go around so much.
Yeah.
So I think, like you were saying, if we had like a Lufisto in the area or something like that, but thinking about women's wrestling as a whole, I feel like in these years is where we'll really see the founding fathers of women's wrestling. That we'll be able to look at and be like, this is who we go to for advice.
You're talking about locally or on the indie scene?
I think locally.
All around, but also locally.
You're saying everybody's going to find their kind of founding people.
Every area,
like
will be more.
the person that's going to be the 20-year vet, 10-year vet later down is helping out by us, like a Shirley Doe or something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that will become more female.
Like a lot of familiar names are going to start popping up, I think, as like seminar people. Like I could easily see Raylan hosting a seminar in 10, 15 years, you know, Britt Baker or Tessa Blanchard, you know, people like that right now that are hitting kind of like, I don't even want to say their peak because with wrestling it's so weird. Like you could think you're on a downspin and then it just comes right back up out of nowhere with opportunities.
PCO,
well, there's that.
You know,
all of a sudden you're not human.
Yeah, like I know, like
by the way, what's up, PCO? I see you liking our tweets.
That's my dad.
I know locally, like Kimberly is starting to do more of that type of stuff.
Yeah.
She's in like the Dayton area now, so she's starting to pick
somebody
up and
who's
do more
been
stuff.
there and has been around.
Exactly.
So
Gone
that makes a
everywhere,
lot of sense.
Yeah.
I think that's the only benefit too of like the Performance Center and with the Mae Young Classic starting to pick up more local talent is if they're smart, they're taking notes from beginning to end of like, okay, here's what they want. Here's what they're looking for. Like one thing that kind of shocked me is Lady Frost obviously had a Performance Center tryout. And it was just such a crazy day at the show. I didn't even have time to like sit down with her. But I was like, I know you're sick of probably hearing this, but I kind of want to know like what was the tryout like? Like what did they say? What did they hear? And she's like, you know, you're actually one of the first people to ask me that. And this was like weeks after she got back. And I was just kind of like shocked because I don't know if I knew somebody who like I tend to not want to ask because I don't want to. I don't know. I just don't want to be like, oh, give me all the secrets. So you know what I mean or whatever. Like I want to earn it too. But to me, it's just like if you had somebody like when I did my first Rise with an Eye seminar, I like first I was the only person taking notes. So I felt like a nerd, but I had pages and pages of notes. And I remember like the first Rise with a Y practice that I came to, I was like, this is what they taught us and everything. Like all I wanted to do was be like, even for the guys, like take it. And like just asking opinions too, like, okay, this is what they taught us. Like, what do you guys think? Like, what's your opinion? Do you know what I mean? So it was really shocking that like when I just heard that from her, like, wow, like nobody's like sat down and be like, how did your journey get from A to B, and then like what was it like on C on your way home?
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
and she's like kind of a weird situation because she is still young in her career.
Oh, super
to
young.
get that
Yeah.
opportunity.
Good for
right?
her.
I mean,
Do you know
she's
what I
this,
mean?
this is the one that has had. If people don't remember, we've had her on the show talking about the experience. She basically her debut in ring match was against Asuka on Monday Night Raw in Cleveland nearly a year ago.
Yeah,
Still not fully trained.
No, not fully trained at the time. And had her, I think, debut match like 2 months later at Rise, maybe.
Yeah,
Something like
So-
that.
something like that.
Yeah, and she's been massively improved since then. But still taking advantage of that opportunity.
Yeah, and it's weird. That's like wrestling is not a meritocracy in any sort of way.
What's that word mean?
It's not based on how good you are.
Not at all.
You do so like wrestling is a casting call,
Mhm.
and it's the right look at the right time for the right thing, and that's not to diminish people's success in any sort of way, but there is the thing I always talk about, and this we're off topic a little bit, but this does play into like especially for women where it's so tough to break in right now. If you can give me a reason why big time Bill Collier never got the call from WWE, but James Ellsworth did,
Yeah.
please explain that to me.
Oh my god.
Wrestling is not a meritocracy.
Yeah.
It's casting call. It's the right person. It's the right fit at the right
It's
time.
why does Eva Marie
Mhm.
had as much as she did, but Kimberly got seemingly.
Well, there's reasons for that, and I won't get into it on air.
Of course.
But
But even just like when they were doing the
yeah.
latest season of Tough Enough, and
Yeah.
I remember like someone came back and they were like, "Oh yeah, they're not looking for
Yeah.
wrestlers. They want like bodybuilders or they
Mhm.
want like TV people." And I'm like, "What?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense." Like
Yeah.
you're basically saying I can take anybody and turn them into a professional wrestler. And like
Yeah.
no offense, but I do not find that.
That's been
true.
the playbook for
But that's
years.
been-
For
But that I know,
good or
I
bad.
know. Like I
Yeah.
get that. I'm not, that fact is not lost on me. But you
Yeah.
would think like, okay, your market is so good. Like, why are you wasting time with
Mhm.
someone who's like not into connecting with the fans or like
Mhm.
just I don't know. I don't think the same passion's going to be behind there. Like, yeah, there's a nice paycheck, and some people do run on that.
Mhm.
But it's
But
like, yeah,
at the same time, it's like I just don't think you're going to have the same quality.
Yeah.
no, and they don't as much because like the ones they do hit on are like Big E, and you
Mhm.
go like, how did they hit on Big E? But they did, So it's
He's a
tough.
bodybuilder, right?
Yeah.
Like
But
pretty-
again, there's other components, and this will kind of circle it back. It's like Biggie also is obviously very charismatic. Like
Mhm.
he's also very entertaining. So
Mhm.
that's the other thing of like I get that you do need those pieces, but at the same time, I feel like you can teach that more so than I don't know. To me,
Well-
it's like you kind of need somebody. It's no different than like how people get burned when it's like you've been with a company since
And-
like stage one, and then you see someone get hired off the street with like half the resume or whatever you want to call
Here's
it.
a
So
weird-
I guess it's the same thing.
Here's
But
a weird question for women's wrestlers, and I don't know the answer. Is how many of the women that did the famous Diva search that was just all models
Mhm.
actually followed through with it long term?
Whoa.
You look at like one of them, like, and I'll give an example, is Marie Kanellis,
Uh-huh.
who
Yeah.
was a Diva search contestant,
Mhm.
and
oh, that's
then
right.
she got in some hot water at WWE,
Mhm.
and then went on her way to Ring of Honor. And Maria was at every Ring of Honor camp,
Mhm.
every single one. She showed
actually
up.
wanted to.
Um,
yeah.
She wanted it.
We also just recently had in here Rosa Mendez,
Mhm.
and she was attending the Ring of Honor camps and trying to get back in because she was somebody that did the Diva search. She was a glamour model, and you can listen to that on the Indie Mayhem show feed here from a few weeks ago. She was a glamour model in Las Vegas, got the call to do Diva search, did it, and then bugged them to like, well, no, I want to do this. No, seriously, what do I do next? Bugging John Laurinaitis, and she says to the point where she dropped in me and was like, listen, I'll go down to Louisville and live out of my car. And that's when she got the response. And because you think of her as the Diva search model that they taught to wrestle probably on the road, right? Is the perception, but they're in Louisville doing the shows, setting up the rings and doing all the stuff before they get in there. But then she was a manager and never got to do it. Until now wanting to do it.
Get back into it.
Yeah, now.
I don't know how much, because like, were the Bellas a Diva Search? I don't know if anyone remembers.
No, they were trained.
Were they?
Well, they were trained because they debuted one.
Yeah.
And
I know.
so
I don't know how many women came out of that, but I mean, it was a shotgun approach to talent.
Oh yeah.
But I think if you get Maria Kanellis out of it, it's not that's crazy.
Trish Stratus was a model first, right?
Yeah,
And
she was a
again,
model.
it's kind of like the hey, we'll bring in the athletes, like we'll bring in the models, and
Yeah.
we'll kind of fiddling will work on them.
See what happens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like.
See what sticks.
But it's such a weird time for them to be doing that right now because like I just saw like a couple weeks back that they put out like an announcement that they were going to do another one of those
which
pseudo like
is
diva
weird.
S searches that wasn't called a diva search obviously.
now.
But
Mhm.
meanwhile, you are buying up as much talent on the indies as you can. You are making
So
offers
strange.
to all of the highest level independent companies to their rosters. You're buying up as much like of the highest profile women's talent you can, and you're also going to do this. That's
Mhm.
No, that makes
while
no
you
sense to
also
me
have
either.
a really deep bench that you are not utilizing.
Are they
Yeah.
are they heading towards a women's product?
What?
Do you think?
That's
Like a 205
I think it's
style.
happening. I think it's happening.
That's likely. I
can see
I
that.
could see that in the next couple of years.
Just some
Yeah.
clarifications from the
Gross.
chat room. Thank you, Bobby and Riz out there. Layla was a Diva Search contestant. They were talking about in the chat. The Bellas were definitely Diva Search contestants. Also Maurice, because Maurice was
Maurice
actually
was.
Oh, yeah.
Rosa talks about coming up with Maurice because
Yeah.
Maurice went to train at the same time
I think
she
Michelle
was.
McCool was.
I love Maurice.
Mhm.
Oh,
Michelle
yeah.
McCool, I think, was.
Mhm.
Michelle McCool was.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a few and there's Christy Hemme obviously is one of the famous ones, and then I don't know, I don't know much about Christy's career post WWE because I know she did Impact for a while, but I don't think she wrestled, did she? She just did interviews down there.
Mostly announcing.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
but there's a few gems out of that of women that were, hey, you're a model, that fell in love with the business and
Yeah.
Mhm.
did something out of it. Michelle McCool, I mean, she had a full run as women's champion for a long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then obviously married the Undertaker, which is crazy still.
Still weird.
Amazing.
Still makes me uncomfortable.
Oh, not
Good
me.
for him.
Good for her. That's another
Anyway.
podcast.
Anyway, here's my question then to M here. Do you think what's going to take for Ring of Honor to do it, to go to Intergender?
That's a really good question. So recently it hasn't debuted on TV yet, but it's been all but given out on television that they have debuted a new faction, and there is a woman in the faction, which is the kind of the first time that I can tell that they've ever had a stable type system.
That's the Kelly Klein one?
no Kelly Klein's got her own.
That's Team Klein.
It's her team.
Okay.
It's not really a
It's a bunch of
faction 'cause-
independent wrestlers
Oh,
that she berates.
Oh,
yeah,
so
and they
it's
don't
like-
wrestle with her.
No.
They
Oh,
don't
so they're
wrestle-
like her boys or her sing brothers
yeah,
or
it's
something.
it's
Yeah.
Okay.
they're
And they
co-
rotate them, don't they?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
different people everywhere.
Yeah, so I saw Cody
So
Vance
it's
in there.
literally the boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, they call it Camp Klein, which I understand as an MMA term, but to me, if you're gonna call something a camp, you better be being trailed by a bunch of malevolent 12-year-old girls.
Yeah.
It does feel very Salute Your Shorts.
Oh my god, it'd be so great, so much better. Nothing against Kelly Klein. I really like
she
what
should
she's
have a
been
Girl
doing.
Scout
Yeah.
cookie flavor.
I thought she was going to be the
Yes.
one that would do it first.
And right now, literally right in the last day or two, there's been a fun exchange between her and Dalton Castle about
Okay.
a hair versus hair match, but
Yeah.
they'll never do it. They won't do it, at least not right now. But okay, so there's a new faction headed up by Juice Robinson, and it has Tennille Dashwood in it.
Okay.
Oh,
And-
that's right.
yeah.
Mm.
That's a lot.
Apparently it was a decision on someone on the creative, and they were able to talk it up to everyone else, but it got booked, and I feel like that's a step in the direction.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I wouldn't be
Mhm.
shocked to see an intergender moment in the next year, especially
for
now
sure.
that WWE has done it
Yeah.
for the
Mhm.
Royal Rumble, and there is there's always going to be a little bit of competitive streak when it comes to the booking for ROH. But I think it's gonna take pushing. It's gonna take fan response, and it's also I think it's gonna take some of the people who are working behind the scenes there to commit to making it happen.
And you see, they have been on TV as this group.
They have been
According to the chat is confirming that they have been.
So the episode hasn't aired yet. I think it's going to be coming this week.
Okay.
But it has been basically it's been shared on social media. It was their last set of tour shows. The faction was intact, and Tennille's on commentary because she's still out on injury.
Okay.
But she's in the faction. Her and 4 dudes.
Is it like, do you
5
think it's
years.
more of a situation that's going to happen on pay-per-view but never on TV?
It will definitely happen in an Honor Club event or possibly a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Probably more like probably kind of what you were talking about with the like house shows.
Yeah.
It'll probably happen on a tour show and then on a pay-per-view and maybe eventually on the TV.
Yeah, because I guess remember, like these shows show up on your local network where they will get phone calls from grandma that's tuning into it
I
at
just don't
5
think
o'clock
Sinclair-
on a Saturday.
I think Sinclair
Ugh, I'm
would
over
edit
that.
that out.
I
So-
think based on what I've seen in episodes, like things that get blurred, etc., I
Mhm.
wouldn't be surprised if they had a
Yeah.
little bit of an issue with it. But I definitely see the opening for Honor Club to be able to like
Yeah.
stream these events
Yeah.
since they're streaming these events to such a wider audience for them to be able to do intergender moments on those shows at least.
I really thought when they had brought Kelly in and Kelly was doing her like run,
Mhm.
especially like her undefeated run, I was like, this has to be a thing that like there's no real payoff to this otherwise. And like I remember
And
when
there wasn't.
and there was like, because I remember Kelly and I had talked about her coming in, and I was like, would you do an intergender? Like this is when she was still like doing the undefeated streak,
Yeah.
and she was like, maybe. Like I'd have to get that approved because I'm not like Kelly was real protective of her character during that time because she wasn't losing. It was like when you booked Kelly, like she couldn't lose at all. Like, and it had to be like not like a Kelly doesn't lose, but it was a count. It'd be like Kelly beats them and taps them out. Like that's the story. That's what you book. That's what has to happen. And I was like, oof. Like we talked briefly about it, and then like as all things with Kelly and I go, like she gets very busy and goes to like Japan, and I don't talk to her for a while. But I thought she was going to be the one that would break it. Like when they brought her in, it was like, oh no, this girl's bad and she's going to kill everyone.
Yeah.
And then they didn't really do it.
And she is one of a couple women who are on their Women of Honor roster who can hold their own in an intergender match. I have every reason to believe that. And so it's a question of like who in their male roster is like, you know, would be willing to do that. And I think that they have the
Lot.
I
talent.
think they have a lot of men that would be like, fuck yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
My question and my thought process in that is like, now we've seen intergender moments.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're thinking like, okay, there will be intergender moments. When do we think that there will be a Ring of Honor, WWE, NXT, Impact intergender match? Not like a tag match, like
full
only
on
when,
singles.
like when is there going to be like a man versus a woman match?
With the Money in the Bank, that's any title, isn't it? The briefcase?
It's generally accepted that it's going to be like the main titles.
Oh,
Like
I
no
was-
one's ever cashed in for an IC title or anything like that.
I don't know. That might be a way to do it. Is have the women's and then have someone like Becky or even Nia, and then be like, "No, this is the title I want," and then
Yeah.
you could have a
Like if they
weird
got if
feud
they have
out
some
of
kind
it.
of beef, like how we're getting this kind of Dean Ambrose Nia Jax thing that's going on right now. That's kind of
Are they paying that? Are they gonna pay that off?
It's a constant. Last 2 weeks they've done like moments with it, so maybe that's him on the way out after Mania.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like that makes sense if they're gonna like think about doing it with anyone and they're just like they're not completely sure of it. They just want to see if it sticks. They're like, well, we might as well do it with Dean Ambrose because he's going anyway.
so stupid.
Like if he's there, then he's there.
Like always at the safe option. Do you know what I mean? It's like, oh, we can push aside the phone calls that we're gonna get because it's like,
'Cause
oh
he's
well, we
gone.
just released him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
or say, oh, we released him because.
and how they've already like publicly announced it, so that now
Pretty
like,
much.
the general WWE audience now that colors their opinion on what's going on.
I would
there.
think out of anywhere, Impact would be the first place to do it.
I'm surprised Impact
I was
doesn't
thinking
either
NXT.
because they have Gail on their writers.
Yeah.
We were just real quick circling
Really?
back.
Yeah.
Gail's
Yeah.
part of their like her. I know Sanjay used to be part of it. He's no longer, I believe.
somewhere.
Yeah.
He's somewhere else. And then Bill, I'm gonna fuck up his last name. Demet or Demott.
Bill DeMont.
Bill
Demott.
DeMont's with them now.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
that makes it less likely.
Well,
Bill DeMont's not
he's part
really
of
a progressive
creative.
dude.
Maybe it's not. Maybe writing
Yeah.
is the right. He's part of creative.
Yeah, Bill DeMont's not the most progressive dude out there.
I
if
don't
you
know.
remember,
I enjoyed him. I thought he was.
He got fired from NXT for some slurs and things like that he was.
Oh, never mind. Fuck off.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's when Matt Bloom took over for Bill DeMott because of some controversy, we'll say. I don't remember everything he
I'll have to
said, but
Google
I
this.
remember it was not good.
Well, I gotta stop. I gotta stop not working for places because the promoters are racist. But anyway, that list is gonna get real shorter.
Yeah.
Much shorter. But it's just I see what you're saying though with needing a woman on there, because I always enjoyed, with Impact in general, their attention to entertainment. Like, they're not afraid to take like wacky stories, like like someone
for good and bad.
well, for good and bad, but it's like you remember those things. Like, I'm never gonna forget Matt Hardy talking to a giraffe thinking he's President Washington.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. I'm gonna remember what was their faction called with Rosemary, Crazy Steve, and Abyss? What was it called?
I know what you're talking about. But
Dead? No, was it Dead Wrestler Society or something like that?
No,
but that was somewhere else.
that was somewhere else. That was in Cleveland.
Oh yeah, sorry.
That was much different.
That was a PWO.
Oh, anyway, that and like they like invaded like Matt Hardy's home and tried to like abduct. Like, of course it was ridiculous, but they still did it like with crazy cameras and like there was obviously a production value there. Do you know what I mean? So it's little things like that I'm really surprised like Impact has not been more of a competition, only because I think their talent is there, but it's just they're not afraid to go back to the old school again. Like, this is where I'm always gonna have a soft spot. Like, back in the day with like old WWF, like it was like hokey stories and like, okay, yeah, maybe there was like at the time like underlying messages that we don't want to imply now, but at the same time it's like I remember that over, you know, hot girl versus hot girl, hotter girl one, or you know, jacked guy versus jacked guy. It's like it's entertain. There's a reason it's sports entertainment. Like, focus on that. Like, of course you want athletes who are going to be able to take it on their body and, you know, just all the physical demands and everything, and obviously you know that's going to make your product better, but at the same time it's, you know, same thing with like even just circling back to the booking thing. Like, some people, I mean, I'm obviously very pro intergender and pro like women's rights, but at the same time, if the writing is there, I don't think maybe you don't always need a woman in there, you know, unless you have a situation where it's like, oh, we need someone to basically be these women's voices. That's one thing. But even like with Rise, like I've never been put in a situation at Rise where I'm like, oh, that's not good. I don't want to do that. You know what I mean?
I've never felt like a lady wrestler there.
No.
Yeah.
But
it's a presentation. And just to catch up with the chat room here, Bradley and Riz said the Decay would be that team.
Decay.
That's right. Decay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Everybody's screaming at their phones right now. But anyways, go ahead, Marcus.
No, I would say like one of the things that we try to do, and I think we've tried to make it benefit everyone at our company, is like we brought in Pollock as like someone to help out, especially in like with psychology and stuff, to give the women in the company just an extra mind to bounce stuff off of. Because I think like a lot of times what happens with women's wrestling, especially when I was around it so much, was okay, you guys talk about it with yourself, you guys got it, great, and would just leave you alone. So we've tried to like bring in.
It doesn't matter if your match is good or not because you're girls.
Yeah. So we tried to bring in like, okay, like here's a dedicated asset, you know, and someone that like I'm very biased in this opinion because Jack is like my very, very good like best friend. I think he's one of the best psychology minds out there. I think he's a great resource of psychology, which is the reason I brought him in, which is because agenting is a completely different mental aspect than anything else. Like I do wish I had, like I said, I wish I had a female voice that could agent. And I think we're going to build that. And that's a longer term type of thing where, you know, the women, and I was thinking about this earlier, the women that should be agenting now didn't have the benefit of people that believed in them enough to teach them the psychology and agenting. I can't remember who it was, and if it's someone, and I don't want to name names, but Morgan was doing like a spot with a training one time, and she had pitched doing a hair beal, and someone goes, "I don't know what a hair beal is." It was another woman, and she's like, "How do you not know what a hair beal is?" And I go, "Morgan, because it's not 1999.
Yeah.
You're not doing hair beals anymore, where you grab a girl by the hair and you throw her. Like that was such a like Miller Lite catfight girl move.
Yeah, that was such a divas era.
Like thing, and she's like, oh, and I was like, they don't know that because they weren't trained to do it, because that's not how women are trained now. Like, or hopefully they're not. I'm really hoping they're not. Now that I've said that, so like the women that should be in those agency roles, like especially when I broke in, like the Morgan Rockefellers and Stacey Hunters and Crystal Frost, they got kind of either shoved into a corner of, you only get 3 minutes out there to do your match, so you don't need to learn psychology, you don't need to learn to do anything, you have 3 minutes, or they're going to take so much shit in their career that they're just going to leave.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it was, you know?
That there is now, or there's not the like just openness. And I think that's another big thing with the creative side of it. You know, it at the same time, it would be great for a woman, but as long as you have people in general in the creative room that are going to be open to new ideas, but also open within their circle. Like the fact it makes sense, like why it's probably easy for you to go with, because you have someone like Doe.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
Yes.
he's not going to sit there and be like, well, my idea is better. No, my idea is better. Like that part is also like the ego part of it's going to come into play, which I think is what you see more on these higher companies, especially the Fed. Whereas like the local, indie companies are like, let's just make something entertaining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm very lucky that when I broke in, I had Doe as a mentor to take me aside and teach me psychology and to teach me things. And so that's my big point is, the old, like, I don't want to call them older women, because they're all like still like they're in their like early 30s. Like that's the worst part about it. They all broke in when they were like 16, 17. They wanted to do this. And they just got put into this grinder of independent wrestling, and they got spit out with no psychology training, no real wrestling training, and just being called whores.
Yeah.
You know,
and no matter what, your gimmick is that you're a whore.
You're a money you're stealing someone's boyfriend, or you're only in this because you sleep with people, or you're power hungry bitch. Those are like the characters they got to do, and fans would just say that at them, and like it ground them down to the point where they either quit wrestling or they just didn't want to do that type of stuff anymore. And so they didn't have mentors. They didn't have people that are going to do that. And so it's my responsibility. It's responsibility of the veterans that are in locker rooms now to teach this to the next generation. And that's where it's going to get better, is when people like here break to another level, they have that experience and have that ability, and then they can channel it. Like I know, I don't want to say like anything personal, but I know like Ray Lynn's been a huge help to you.
Absolutely.
As someone who like learned a lot of things and then has been able to teach you a lot of things on the road.
To be honest, she's probably been my biggest, or mainly only, women help.
Yeah.
Like training wise. But I was gonna say, I feel lucky that I'm also in a generation where it is like a woman is equal enough that I don't feel like I feel like I can be like, hey, Jack Pollock, hey, Chris LaRusso, hey, Mark Mann, what do you think about me doing this? I don't have to be like, where's another woman that can tell me how to put together a woman's match?
Yeah.
I feel like I can ask anyone.
I think because you talk about kind of like how all these girls were pigeonholed back in the day. Like you guys right here are very specific characters that don't fit that mold.
Yeah.
Like it's one thing that when I first saw both of you in the first matches I saw you, and it really stuck out to me. It was just like, it's not, especially some of the places I may have seen you, it's just like, oh, here comes the women's match. And then it's just like, oh, this is something. Like there's something to this.
They're
right?
not pretty characters. They're not. And that was something that I really, when I was like becoming myself, I grew into being like, I don't want to be a women's wrestler. I don't want to wrestle and be like, well, what's going to look pretty? I specifically wanted to be like, what's going to be me? What's going to look like me?
And there's a lot of, even today, I think in the indie, there's, indie guy with trunks that doesn't really have a gimmick, right? There's a lot of indie girl that can wrestle good,
So rampant among women.
Yeah.
So rampant among women.
Yeah.
That think they can, I mean, I don't think it's just like I mean, there are some women that think this way, but I think it's mainly just like a product of what we've come up in, is that you're like, oh, well, you can just get away with being a girl in cool gear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that. at a
Like
show.
you're pretty. That's all you
Yeah.
need. Can you do a flip? You're good.
Cool.
Can you do can you do a cartwhell? You're fine.
Sweet.
So-
Yeah.
And like, here's what, and I'll circle back to this because I know like Badger and I do jab at each other because we're friends. But like the thing about Badger is like she mentioned she just had a women's match at Rise, and that wasn't anything specific. It's just because like I try to put Badger in the situation that's just like, okay, this is the situation Badger would go into, and if it just has him against a woman, like we did you and Calvin, because I was like, oh, that's the entertaining match. Like that's the match I want to see. I want to see these two people like merge together.
Yeah.
And like the reason like you got in with London was an accident. Like we didn't book this whole story out with you in London. It was like we did a match,
tag match, and the finish was hokey.
and the finish kind of got messed up a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we were like, well, I guess we got to do another one. And then it was like, well, I guess we're in a story now.
Yeah.
Like we're just doing this.
And then London and I were like, shit, we beat the fuck out of each other. Let's keep doing it.
Like, so like I try to just like, and this is, you know, there's a level of booking that I still am learning, but like when I see Honey Badger as a character, I don't think, oh, Honey Badger is a woman's wrestler. I think Honey Badger is this character that does things. And so what things are she going to do this show, or what things does she work with?
Man,
Yeah,
woman, child.
You know?
Oh, I'd love to kick a kid's ass.
Wouldn't that be the best?
But I'll get you a women's match. We'll get that.
Yeah, and I'm not, and just real quick, like I'm really not trying to be a jerk, and like
No,
I'm
I know-
very
I know you're
grateful
not.
for all the opportunities. It's just
You wouldn't be you if we didn't like poke at each other.
true, very true. Don't poke the badger.
But yeah, I don't
That's a
like, that's the
shirt.
thing is I don't
That
like
is a shirt.
London. I see London as just London.
Yeah.
You know,
Mhm.
and that's, I mean, and I'm not trying to like toot a horn here in any sort of way. It's mostly just because like, I don't think I have the writing capabilities to give women a voice. Like I'm not that good of a writer
Mhm.
in any sort of way. So like Jinx and London's story was, okay, we want to beat each other because we want to be the first ever woman grand champion. And we want to, if I beat you, I know that it'll elevate me. And that's just a story that I would tell with Matt Conrad. I would tell with Lee Moriarty. I would tell with anyone. It's the same story. It just happened to be that we got thrown in a situation that it worked.
And I might have even said this last time, that in intergender wrestling, and since I've been able to like actually like Rise is the first place I've been able to like build myself up. It's just the first time I've noticed it. Is with men, it's the men are so much more open to not being like, oh, well, I don't think you should give me that move because like you're really small.
Mhm.
Dudes are just, then Derek Direction comes out and is like, fucking German suplex me.
Yeah.
I'm like,
He told me to do the spot, and I was like, Jinx is going to German you? And he goes, Hornswoggle Germans. I said, cool.
Yeah.
but
Yeah, like, cool.
Yeah.
If
Plus-
you give me a reason.
I think I've never thought that there was a reason that I like couldn't do a German. I feel like I just like, in that match specifically, gave me so much more confidence in Jinx as a character because of the fact that I didn't go into it like, oh, I can't, we weren't talking about it where I was like, oh shit, I can't do this because I'm too small. Oh shit, I can't do this because like it wouldn't look cool for us, blah, blah, blah. It was like, no, we're gonna wrestle. You're gonna go punch for punch with this grown-ass man, and it's gonna make sense. We're gonna tell a story, and like, we did that.
It's empowering.
Exactly.
And I mean, that's the
It
message
felt
that we
incredible.
want to give, especially like, I can tell you right now, like, I'm not, like, one of the things that moves me the most is when these little girls come up and they're almost like too scared to like get in the photo with me, but their mom's like, she loves you and like she wants to be a wrestler. Like, those are the moments where I'm like, this is why like I went through the shittiness and like still like you know, go through all this, because like those girls need somebody, and you never know, like I personally don't know what the culture, because I'm old, like looks like right now. And I'm hoping it's as empowering. Like I couldn't imagine being in high school right now. Like I had a terrible time in high school. I cannot imagine what high school for women right now looks like. But it's the same thing of like, maybe they just needed to see this girl, whoever it is, get in the ring to this guy who's being a jerk and kick his ass and say, oh,
Absolutely.
I'm not this fragile thing. I don't need to be protected. Like I just need to stand my ground. So
Yeah, and like you do a lot of like blogging on
Yeah.
all this, and like I remember you sent me like, can I do the Jinx and Derek match? And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, go ahead. And then I remember like you wrote that article up, and I was like, oh, that's really nice that she said nice things about the company. And I was like, okay. And then like you wrote one the next week of like, this is a terrible intergender match, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, all right, like this
Yeah,
is
and
like
that
I've
came
never
from-
seen that like dynamic before, especially on your blog.
Well, because I came from because the match that I really disliked came from a company that I really enjoy their intergender work and generally think that they provide really good examples of intergender matches, and they commit to it really hardcore, much like Rise has, to the point where the company is Beyond Wrestling, and Beyond Wrestling on their YouTube channel has at the time when we started this project that I'm still trying to finish, there were about just over 90 videos on this full matches on this YouTube account that are intergender matches, not all of which are Beyond. Some are Chikara, some are other companies that they promote. So I got together a team of just other fans and wrestling writers, and we watched every single one of them and scored them on a rubric. I was surprised when I got their scores back that they liked this one match as much as they did, because I strongly disliked it.
Can I ask what match it was?
It was actually a match that I was kind of primed to enjoy, which was a match between Kimberly and Colt Cabana. But it featured a trope that I really dislike in intergender wrestling, and I did that match the week after I covered the Derek Direction and Jinx match for the reason, because all the things that fail in this match are things that you guys succeeded in. I hate the trope in an intergender match where the guy is too much of a gentleman to fight the woman.
I hate that shit.
Because when did we fucking forget that we were wrestlers?
Yeah.
Like, you got in this ring for a fight. No one's buying this. It's going to happen. We know that you're going to have a wrestling match. I really dislike that trope because, yeah, there's a lot of suspension of disbelief that we have as wrestling audience members, and we go along with it. But the one thing I'm not going to buy is that a wrestler went into a wrestling ring for a wrestling match.
We're all wrestlers.
And is suddenly stunned to be asked that he is to wrestle somebody.
Right. You knew what was happening.
You knew what was
Bro,
happening.
you were there.
You signed a contract.
You signed a contract.
But you're right.
You're
like,
getting paid.
Yeah.
Like, we know
that's
this match
true.
is going to happen, and we know this is just preamble. We know that you're going to have a match. You're going to have to get talked into it. You're going to do cutesy things that I dislike. He does the kissy thing that I really hate in intergender matches. But what I really hate about it is the restraint. I hate the idea that, like, you're a woman, so I'm going to treat you gentlemanly, and I'm going to restrain myself, even though we all know that you're wrestlers. In the
Why don't you show the same restraint towards Marco Stunt, who's like 90 pounds?
You don't show yeah, you
like tiny people.
It's it goes counter to all the other matches we see you wrestle anybody where you just go. And like, yeah, you do comedy stuff, like Colt Cabana does comedy wrestling, but like we see you go plenty of times. So like, why is this the moment that you choose to like withhold? It just doesn't work. It doesn't work in the match. It doesn't work in the match reality. It takes you out of it completely. What I like about your match with Derek is that neither of you hold back. You have very different you have very different strengths and very different weaknesses. And what loses the match for Derek in that match is not necessarily that you overpower him. Is that you seize a moment that he is weakened by his own weaknesses. He is distracted by his own weaknesses, which is his ego. And that works so well from a psychological aspect. And the rest of the physicality in that match matches that psychology. It was definitely one of the best intergender matches I watched in the past year because of that.
Yeah.
Because like, and you talk about like you giving back to this, this guy who's much bigger than you. Totally true. But also, you take some serious bumps in this match. You take some serious
That
bumps
buckle
in this.
bomb almost killed
Oh
you.
my gosh!
Hell yeah.
That was
Hell yeah.
Oh my gosh! So like, yeah. So as a smallish lady, I'm watching this and I'm like, okay, so I'm seeing all these power moves from you, and I think that's awesome. But I'm also seeing you take significant bumps and keep going. And I can only imagine what I would have felt like if I was a younger girl, if I was a kid watching this and been like, oh, I can get fucking like thrown into a turnbuckle and get back up.
It's really cool.
There's strength in taking that.
Yeah.
It's
and
really
coming
cool
back.
that you like picked up on that, because that's the main thing that I've always wanted as the Jinx character, is that I don't really wish to have like a cool move set or 2 cool moves. I know I can't do deadlift power moves, but I think that it's very important for people to see it, and I think it's very important to be someone that can get the shit kicked out of them and stand up. Like, whether you win or lose, you get the shit beaten out of you, you're willing to go punch for punch, and then you get up.
It's what makes the criticism of intergender wrestling that it promotes domestic violence so interesting to me, and so like so infuriating, in that like I feel like there's no greater narrative to me about the strength and resilience of getting back after a fight than to watch someone do that. And that counts for any match, honestly.
For sure.
Wrestling is filled with those moments, whether it's an intergender match or, you know, a whatever. But it is especially inspiring to see like a woman go toe to toe with a male wrestler and like take the kind of physical bumps that you might, if you were in, not that a wrestling move is in any way like a fight move, but it does. I feel like if I were someone who was a victim of domestic violence, which I unfortunately not to have been, I think I would find a lot of strength in watching a woman take some form of abuse and be able to dish it back and to continue and to resist against it, because I would prefer that than just like pretending that world doesn't ever happen, that doesn't exist.
It's just a tenacity. I mean, that's what I mainly went with the honey badger too. I mean, that's like the animal themselves. Like you see them, they'll literally take on a pack of lions, or they'll take on an elephant, everything, and like they don't see the size difference, and that's kind of what we are trying to portray too. It's like it doesn't matter. Like if you're in a situation where you feel threatened or whatever, like you hold your own. Like you don't have to run away or back up. It's like just keep getting up and keep fighting for what you want. And you can apply that to almost anything. It's like just keep going.
It might hurt. You might get your ass kicked, but you stay there. You stand your ground. And I think that in itself is inspiring, like you said, in any walk of life.
Yeah, absolutely. And the audience gets behind it. There's a reason why these intergender moments in other matches and other promotions, etc., have the power that they do and like get the reaction that they do, good or bad reaction. They are strong moments that like just that promote a very specific, very like loud message, and those who seize on that message in a positive way really seize on it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I remember like last time we had a really good conversation as well about like, for me, booking Badger and Jinx and Intergender is easy because they have characters that don't back down, and they're smaller people. So when they pop off against a larger person, like the crowd's gonna buy into that. The crowd's gonna love it. The issues then become like certain characters, like London is a good example, as a heel woman, where it becomes harder. Like we talked last time, and I was like, well, so what's the solution? How do we book heel women where people like want to see a woman get punched in the face and
have her
get,
beat a peapot?
And how do they get over that type of thing? And what is
so wholesome.
What has happened, and what I've noticed is that the longer we've done intergender, and the longer we've had heel women and face women in tag matches and 6-ways and stuff like that, the crowd has significantly just cared less about their gender.
Sure.
Absolutely.
It's just slowly but surely, they just don't care anymore. And there's no awkwardness to it. So like,
amazing.
The next show we haven't announced it yet, but we're going to do London and Lee.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an intergender match of a woman versus a guy.
Very face. Yeah.
And that's a tougher situation, but I honestly think that the crowd is just going to be like, okay.
Let's see this. Let's see two athletes like go at it.
London has built herself up. Lee has built herself up. Okay, what are we going to do?
And that's the ultimate goal.
It also speaks to the power of the booking that you've had and the storylines you guys have run with and the characters that you guys have developed, that like you could pit London versus Lee, and you know your audience already has is hugely behind Lee.
Yeah.
They adore him, so they may London might have a fair share of fans in the audience as well, ardent supporters, but not to the level that Lee does. So this is that's a smart idea to pit someone who does have two people who have defined followings and defined gimmicks to see how that works out. And I think you're going to see that. You're right. I don't think they're going to care. I think they're going to keep rooting for Lee.
And it's just going to build her up too more when you see that because London is a very talented athlete.
Yeah.
And I think when you see her go against Lee's where you can really compare their skill level, I think it's going to really end up, even though, people there don't really like London because of her stance in the company or whatever, but, character wise, but it's going to really build her up. It's like, holy shit, she went toe to toe with Lee Moriarty and held her own, whichever way it goes. She held her own, which I know she will.
She's fantastic.
She is.
She was, and I don't give her enough credit at Rise, and she deserves a lot more because London was the tip of the spear for Intergender for all of the women there. Because London was the first woman that was booked at Rise. She was one of Brand's students, and he, when I first was part of the company, I was like, I really want to do Intergender. I really want to do it. And there was a little bit of probably not. And then I left for a little bit of time, and Brandon was booking himself, and he had this, London had graduated, and he wanted to do something with her, and he turned around, and it was like, they don't have any women. Who's she wrestle? And it's like, who she wrestles all the time. She trained
the people you train with.
She trained with the same people. Just let her go work them. And so she started doing the story with Cristiano Negro, the masked cousin of Christian Noir. And I remember right as I was coming back in, they were doing a loser leaves town match between the two of them. And I go, do you want to keep the story going? And Brandy goes, I'm not going to lie to you. This has been the story that's getting the best reactions of everything we're doing. Anything we're doing on the card, biggest pops, most social media involvement, everything was the story between. They did a contract signing between the two of them and all this type of stuff. And it was getting the most stuff. And Brandon was like, I'm 100% in. This is what we have to do. This is going to be the company now. London really broke that mold for our company and deserves a lot of credit for it.
And it's been a nice differentiator for the area as well for you guys too.
Yes.
Yeah. The other one I do want to give, I will give Badger a lot of credit because Badger and Keith were the first intergender tag team we did, and that was also there was some hesitation on doing an intergender tag, and I was like, nah. I think I told her when I put them together, I was like, there is no way people aren't going to love you two together. It's impossible for you two not to
absolutely
be
perfect.
beloved.
It makes total sense. And also intergender tag match, that's the perfect way to introduce intergender work.
Absolutely.
That's you see them towing that line with the mixed match challenge in WWE, but with an intergender tag match, you can allow your audience to suspend their disbelief even more so. And you get a lot of great moments between four wrestlers. You can exchange, there's so many different dynamics. So it's actually the perfect way to introduce.
Well, yeah, and then I just put them against the main event.
Yeah.
Hey,
it was the smallest two people have against the main event, and it's a great match.
It's amazing.
It's fantastic.
Once again, we didn't look at it as a chick and a dude, two smaller people looking at two big dudes. It was like, all right, well, what's our offense?
Yeah.
That's all you do.
There's a moment when you guys have Duke on the ropes that the whole crowd goes like, oh, main event's going to lose. And they were I think they only been undefeated for 16 months or something. We had just started mentioning the undefeated streak. Yeah. And there was this moment of Keith hit that head kick and there was oh, wait a minute, this is going to happen. I think it was was a head kick stunner or something? Or you stunnered
I stunnered him and I head kick. And then I got a lot of feedback from fans that when because I can't remember, but I think it was after that I also put him in that triangle.
Yeah.
And people were like, oh man, is this going to be the one? Because it was that's how do you take down somebody who's, what is he, almost, 6'6", 6'7"? Yeah. You put them to sleep.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And but again, it's no different than in any other match. If I was facing Jessica Havoc, or if I was facing a chick that was bigger, it's okay, I can't outpower you no matter the fact that I think I'm 7'2", and
Anyone can choke
You know what I
anyone
mean?
else out.
Exactly. It's like, I'm going to knock you out. I'm
Right.
going to get the hell out of Dodge. Like,
So-
that's how this match is going to work.
So Ring of Honor doesn't have weight classes. They don't do like the junior weight, heavyweight distinction.
Oh, I didn't know.
And something that like the reason I think intergender should, one of the many reasons I think intergender work should happen in ROH is that they already have really much smaller guys going up against much
Yeah.
bigger guys all the time.
Jonathan Gresham versus anyone.
Jonathan Gresham took down Shane Taylor with a choke, like with like an
Yeah.
octopus hold.
Exactly.
Fun fact: Jonathan Gresham is shorter than me.
Mhm.
So
I am 5 foot even.
because they don't have weight class distinctions, they have the perfect in to be able to work a woman against like anyone that they want to because
Yes.
they've
Yeah, they're not putting the
already
restraints on them
established
for
that this
fucking-
is a reality where that doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Your strengths overcome your weaknesses. And if your weakness is that you're much smaller than a guy, your strength might be that you have expert timing and know exactly when to jump on that guy's back
sure.
and choke the freaking life out of him.
Like how you were saying that a big thing is just being able to fight back and getting back up again, and that's a big thing in intergender wrestling. That's also like a huge thing in just like
Wrestling.
any wrestling when
Right.
you see just like when there is no weight class or when it's like there's like a Marco Stunt or Jonathan Gresham size guy taking on like a Keith Lee or Shane Taylor size guy.
How many
And
times have we
there's
seen
so many moments like that?
like
So
Rey
easy.
Mysterio versus? Didn't he face
Absolutely.
the Big Show a couple times?
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
like that's
Holly?
believable. But you're saying like I couldn't, like I can't fight.
Gannon or
No, not Gannon.
Duke?
No, other big dumb meathead guy that we have at Rise.
Bulk
Nasty. Thank you. I get hit in the head a lot. I don't remember a lot of things.
I know.
Sorry.
No,
Uh,
and, like we've seen a lot of like recently the whole WWE storylines on Raw has been Brock Lesnar beats up little dude.
Yeah.
Okay, Brock
Yeah.
Lesnar beats up Finn Balor. Brock Lesnar
Yeah.
beats up Daniel Bryan. Brock Lesnar beats up AJ Styles.
Yeah.
Like Indy's small darling goes against Brock Lesnar, and it's like you can't survive Brock Lesnar. And then they have these matches where it's like, oh my god, this
Holy
small
shit,
dude,
yeah.
he might beat Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
And like no one beats Brock Lesnar for obvious reasons.
But there's
But you gave him
moments.
that moment
oh my,
of
everyone buys in.
it's
Yeah.
possible.
Yeah. So I don't understand, we've compared about before, and that's one of the reasons I put on your Mayhem Mania board was I picked the Rollins versus Charlotte because it's like that's a match that's so even to me. Seth Rollins versus Charlotte Flair is like the most like
That would be
even
crazy.
WWE match you could think of to me.
Super even.
Absolutely.
Super
Like
even.
they're
Well,
like the same size.
They are.
Charlotte might be taller.
Charlotte
She
is
might,
taller.
she might actually be taller.
She's
Charlotte's
pretty
got
tall.
an inch at least.
But they're both
She's
two
like 6
people
foot.
that are like top athletes. Like they're both in
Absolutely.
phenomenal shape. Do you know what I mean? Like again, they've dedicated themselves to their craft. So why not let them do their craft without so many restrictions? It's
That match would be amazing.
that would be
So good.
if it happens wherever it happens, it's literally going to be the talk of the internet or the indie scene for a long time.
And I don't understand because there's been an argument as well, like, and it's such an older argument, and like the thing that people need to break is this idea of if a man loses to a woman, he's less than, and if he beats a woman, then he just beat a woman.
Exactly.
mean-
That's a mentality that when you hear that mentality and the criticism of it, you realize of just like, oh, you just don't understand, you just don't get it, and there's no like I'm not.
yeah.
Yeah,
They're
that was-
Exactly.
Yep,
There's a
yep.
perfect example.
That was called out right at the beginning of the stream, actually.
Yeah.
So, and the fans notice,
Yeah.
So we've been going at this for well over an hour, and I did put out there if anybody has any questions out there to
Oh,
close
no.
this with some discussion. The Riz. Wait. First of all, Bobby asked, "Do we have to close the show?" Riz thinks that he's pretty sure that Marcus slept over from last
might
night
have.
here. We were here pretty late.
I
so,
was here very late.
Yes,
last
yes. There's a lot of discussions on and off the stream that happened. But Riz says, not sure if it was asked before. Is there a man in any promotion that Jinx or Badger would love to have a feud with?
Oh shit, man! I want to wrestle Lee Moriarty really bad. I want to wrestle.
Everyone does.
Yes, I want to wrestle Christian Noir really bad,
Okay.
and I also want to tag with Christian Noir. It would be a mess because we're both just psychopaths. But as far as things that aren't like as feasible to me in life, let me think. I feel like that's one of those things where it's always like, constantly, but then the second that someone asks you, you're like, "What's a wrestler?"
Yeah.
My
Local-
dream match is
yeah.
Tajiri.
Yeah. That'd be a good one for you.
Tajiri's my favorite wrestler of all time. I think he can do no wrong.
I tried to book Tajiri, but he's very expensive.
That's fair.
You have to fly him from Japan. I'm just gonna let you know that.
Oh, there's that.
No, like locally for you, and I'll throw his name out there. Though I think that you would have a really good intergender match with is Atticus Cogar.
Yes, I was in a tag with him.
Yeah.
In Ohio, I was very sick, and it was a very small show. We did not touch each other, except he elbowed me in the mouth. So yeah, there's comeuppance there, and I would love to wrestle Atticus. I think
you guys stylistically would work well together.
I think we would stylistically work very well together. I'm just trying to think more locally now, because I think if I think on like a wider angle, I'm just gonna like go wild.
What about you, Badger?
I wanna wrestle.
I definitely want to run with Ophidian.
Yeah.
Hell yeah!
Yeah.
I think it turning into a tag would be hysterical.
You did have a moment backstage at IWC.
We did. I don't know, that Badger instinct kicked in. It was attack the Cobra, but for the crowd that's uneducated, Badgers 70% of their diet is venomous snakes.
That's amazing.
But
There was an early internet meme about badgers and snakes. So
there was,
yes.
and then I almost
The year was 2007.
did exterminating work for you in the summer.
right,
Remember that?
right?
Badger exterminating service. Oh, there's another shirt. That's a good shirt.
Yeah.
Snake exterminating.
There's also a honey badger emoticon.
I know. Finally, it's finally an emoji.
Everything's turning up badger.
I will say that every time I play Red Dead Redemption, I feel bad when I hunt badgers.
Yeah, you should.
I feel bad.
By the way,
I always think of you whenever I shoot a badger. I'm like, oh.
oh, I wish people would stop sending me taxidermied badgers.
Wait.
I get so many messages from fans of like, I know it's like, oh, I thought of you, which is great, but it's like, I'm gonna start going to funerals and being like, hey, thought of you. Like, I'm still like,
Here's
please.
your taxidermy grandma.
Yeah, like, I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to see these dead badgers. Like, if you send me real badgers, I'll be like, cool. Like, my coworker is going to South Africa for a couple months, and I was like, if you go to this one badger sanctuary, I need at least like 1,000 photos that I can Photoshop myself into. Like, but it's the same. But I'm just like, stop sending me like stuffed taxidermied. I don't even like them in museums.
I thought when you said that, you meant that they were actually sending them to you, like
in a
Yeah,
box.
I thought that you had like a P.O. box that was getting taxidermy.
like, oh my God,
That's why
my
my
house
face
is
was like-
overrun
Look,
with taxidermy
get a call
badgers.
for
Oh,
the-
I didn't understand why there was this reaction. Now,
You're getting
Yeah.
dead badgers in the mail.
Yeah.
do not send me taxidermy animals.
Do you know how much that would cost to ship?
Yeah.
That's a lot of commitment.
That's a lot of commitment.
That's some super fans.
There
right
is
there.
there is a local like couple that does taxidermy though, and they were like, you should come see our badger, and I'm like, no thanks.
No.
Yeah.
Like, I don't trust you.
Oh,
You cut open his stuffed animals. It's okay.
yeah. Don't go alone.
Wow.
Yeah, don't send me things.
BC Steele asked a question for the two of you.
Of course.
How do you respond to the 10-year-old girl that asks how they can do what you do and be like you? Also, Marcus, I hate you and I hate your stupid hat.
I hate Ben. I'll always hate Ben. There'll be no time where I don't hate Ben. Continue.
I would say that, I mean, I wouldn't tell a 10-year-old girl, think of it in a metaphorical sense, sweetie. But,
Right.
do, in the fact that it's more of a, look at that inner power and do just keep getting up and fighting for yourself and fighting for what you think you need to fight for. And, yeah, don't physically fight Derek Direction, but do it in your soul.
At least until you're older.
Yeah, when you get older, beat the shit out of whoever you want, but not when you're 10.
Especially Derek Direction.
Especially Derek.
Especially Derek
Yeah,
Direction.
as you do. As you do. Badger?
I mean, my thing is always just like, don't let anybody tell you you can't do something.
Mhm.
That was just always my like, don't let them tell you that. Like, whatever you want to do, just go do it. So what? And if you fail, then it's like, at least you A, got it out of your system, or B, it helps you onto the path of what you're meant to do. But I don't know. I love fighting dudes. I'm never gonna not.
I do too.
I'm never not going to be that chick at the bar that's like, oh, let's go. This
I love
fireball
fighting
says that I can
everyone.
kick your ass. So,
Like,
but hi, how are you?
I always say that, like, the fact that I think Jinx's gimmick and the gimmick of Jinx is based on the fact that she thinks that she can fight literally everyone and everything. And that comes from a real place. It's one of those things where it's like, I know feasibly that it's not real, but also I can and I will. But Jinx actually does. I just, as a business casual Jinx in life.
A vessel that Jinx speaks through.
Yes, exactly.
I don't think that. I think you should have just as much. I don't know. You strike me as someone very confident. Something from as simple as like your look and everything. Like I don't think it should be like, oh, this is a character. Like when I go like,
oh no, she's.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Like,
Like
said, my I'm the vessel.
I get what you're saying.
But
You
she
channel
is
a lot of
amplified.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
BC responds both good answers. Please don't hurt me. And Marcus, you have a stupid face, jerk face with stupid face.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And also, everybody is retelling how Atticus has hurt them.
Yeah, there's a
Ooh.
lot
In
of
the chat
Atticus'
room.
service
Honey
stories.
Badger versus BC Steel.
He keeps telling me he's retired and he won't have matches.
Okay, cool.
I don't care.
But I don't like you. If you
Yeah,
want to
no wrestler retires.
if you want to drag him to the ring and beat him up, I'm not going to stop you.
Do it.
Oh my gosh, that'd be great. Please do that.
Oh, the possibilities.
Ben had a lot. Like Ben had a match with Morgan back when I first started. That was like an intergender match that was really good. Like it was really, really good.
Was it like some Beulah McGillicuddy shit?
Yeah, it was more in that
Hell
vein.
yeah.
It was more in that vein. They did a really good
He
job.
bled all over the place.
There was no
and-
bleeding, but like,
Oh.
but like they had like it was a really, really good little match. That was when Ben wore a full white singlet, like full body white singlet, and then
Jeez.
leopard print trunks over top of it.
It had like legs. Like when I say like the singlet had like
Yeah,
it went
the
down to
legs.
his ankles, and I
Wait,
think it came down all the way to
Yeah.
his.
It was like a full suit.
Wow.
God.
Yeah, and then leopard print trunks over top.
I'm
of
gonna
it.
need to see pictures.
He has pictures.
Hold
so
on.
We're talking about him.
I'm
so
the
he's gonna
queen of
post.
screenshots, so I definitely have it somewhere.
Yeah.
I think you've hit really on like what makes an intergender match the kind of draw that it is too. When you have two wrestlers or four wrestlers or however many people are in the match that have like strong gimmicks and strong presence and strong personality that you can rely on a whole lot of different things. In watching as much intergender wrestling as I did in the last 2 months and just watching so many matches, the ones that stick out to me are not always the ones that are like the most technically proficient, the ones that go so seamless. A lot of times they are the ones where the wrestlers, where gender is not as much of a question, like it's not really made much of, and it's more about two people with very strong presences, very strong personalities in whatever way you define it, going and having a match that tells a story that both, tells a story in ring and possibly reflects on a story that is happening outside of ring too. So it doesn't have to be a big story or a flashy story or even like carry on beyond that ring. But if you've got, BC Steel going against Badger, like you're going to get a lot out of that just based on like what the audience already understands about those characters.
Just gonna keep putting that out in the world.
Please.
BC
Putting it out
versus
of there.
Badger.
Don't
Hashtag beat up BC Steel.
Oh my god, so many people would want to do that.
Yeah.
BC Steel.
You know how happy you'll make your audience?
My earliest
Love it.
memory of BC Steel was the time that they had the a crowd at intermission come in and elbow drop him or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a
Ben,
great idea.
Ben was regularly in like the early 2000s ish. They would do a spot where someone would knock him out like right before intermission, and then the intermission you could pay $1 to go pin BC Steel.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
they would like count the three, a referee would count the three, and they take a
That's
picture of you
amazing.
pinning BC Steel.
Oh.
We're missing out on
So
much profit.
So you just sent the audience away pretty unhappy for this
Yes.
past weekend. I'm just saying that this might be a way of getting them back on your side.
Yeah, screwing up everybody's
Is it-
brackets.
Yeah.
Oh.
There was
You
some
ruined everyone's
They were
bracket.
so mad.
Oh really?
People were so
It's
upset.
not even that. I think it was just there were some that it was so like when you just even set the match up, it was so obvious, and it was like y'all didn't like see that, like y'all didn't know that Grindhouse was gonna pull some shady ass stuff, and
My favorite was that no one thought that Golden Sheik was gonna win, and I'm like, They were a tag team.
They're a tag team.
They were the only actual
all right.
one.
We need to break this down for anybody listening who does
Yeah,
not
yeah.
follow Rise with a Y. There's a tag team tournament. Honey Badger, and Keith Hott, who I know just popped in the chat room a little bit ago, were taking on Grindhouse Noir with Megan Myers and Christian Noir.
Which it fell into, because originally we were going to have 2 different intergender tag matches, and then things fell apart, and they got mixed into one, which was like, I think that was my big regret out of the show, was we had 2 intergender matches scheduled for it. So it was like, it was supposed to be you guys versus Beastman and Shirley Doe.
That would have
been. I want to.
And that got
rain
messed
check
up.
on that one.
That went. Trust me, that's coming. And then that got, like, some things happened there, and then it got mixed in with you, Christian and Meg, and it was like the easier dynamic to do, because, like, just the way things were doing made sense out of that. And that's my base for guys. We came in with 2, and then we only walked out with 1, and I was like, okay, that sucks.
And the other one was Golden Sheik, who is a team.
Yes.
Against Military Intelligence, which were a
Who are
first-time
not a
team of Lewis the Nerd and
are
Drake
now.
Braddock, but they
You're
are
right.
now. There's a lot of possibility there.
Right.
They are now.
I
Right.
really
They're
want
doing
them back.
Pit Fight.
I did
They just
see
got
Oh,
that.
are
They're doing
they?
Pit Fight as a team.
Yep, they just got announced they're
Oh.
going to do it as a team. So, like, Military Intelligence is a real team that's really
Jeez.
happening.
Guys, we've been going a while, and I feel like we could go for another hour and a half. But so, Honey Badger versus Beastman would have been amazing. Didn't that happen
You guys have had
That happened in an alternate universe.
That
in
was-
an alternate
that was
universe?
on Earth
Yes.
2.
That was on
Earth
Earth 2.
2.
Earth 2 wrestling. Yes,
So we will fight each other for the first time.
that's right. Well, let's go down the line. Emily, where can people find what you're doing within these articles we've been talking about?
Well, you can find me on Twitter at ForkedPGH, FORKED PGH. I am a co-host of Talking Honor on the Pro Wrestling Torch. It comes out every Wednesday, so there is an episode out today. And I will sometime update the sadly very quickly defunct blog that I started about intergender wrestling, which is called Boy Girl Party. And you can find, in addition to my coverage of the Derek Direction and Jinx match, and the other match that I mentioned that I didn't like so much, there's also some talk about Jazz's big debut, or one of her big debut matches for ECW, and a couple other features there. So read it, comment, cajole me to restart it, because I very quickly fell off. But at some point I'll be releasing the scores and the results of our big intergender our intergender review, because we watched like 90 plus matches of several hours of intergender matches between me and like 10 other people. So we have ranked them and scored them, and I will get that information out there at some point. I can't believe they're not mad at me.
Doing the work so you don't have to.
Do you have a name for your rubric yet?
Do I have a name for what?
The rubric.
It's just a rubric that I put together. It's like an intergender wrestling rubric.
So, like, here, like, one of my favorite things in like statistic analysis for like baseball and basketball is when they come up with a rubric, they'll come up with like a way to name it.
Oh, okay.
And so, like, there's one for basketball that it's like an acronym, but it spells out like Carmelo, like for Carmelo Anthony.
Oh, cool.
So, like, if you could find a way to make an acronym, I would suggest calling it like the China rubric or something like
Oh
that.
my gosh.
Like the way make an acronym for it to do something like that.
That's fantastic. And actually, I think we did.
Oh.
And there goes the
Oh,
chair.
there goes a chair. Oh, we were doing so
It
good.
lasted the whole time. There were, I think, were 5, including overall match score.
Okay.
So
Welcome to my world, by the way.
China would probably work. Yeah.
That would be my vote for that one.
Marcus Mann, of course, Marcus Mann BHS.
Yes, that's still a Twitter
On
handle.
Twitter.
That is a stable that's dead, but I still promote because I still have some T-shirts for sale. I put a lot of money into that T-shirts. Actually, I don't know if we have. I think Edric has all the T-shirts now. We should put those up on Teespring and buy our old Black Hand Society merchandise, which is the coolest T-shirt you don't have. So at Marksman BHS on Twitter, Marksman on Facebook. Please, if you friend request me, I will definitely immediately unfollow you. And then I don't want new stuff in my newsfeed. I like my newsfeed the way it is. And then at the Markman6 on Instagram, and then all the Rise stuff. Rise with a Y _wrestling.
Hashtag not your friend, Marcus Mann.
I got one friend and he's got one knee.
And that's enough for him. Ladies, where can people find you online?
My Instagram account is bloody_adorable, and then my Twitter is bloodyxadorable. If that's incorrect, try vice versa, because it's one or the other.
If you type bloody and adorable,
if you type in the
come
words
up.
bloody and adorable and then jinx somewhere, it'll come up.
Hashtag thick dimples. Dudes.
Yeah. If you type in thick dimples, I come up on Twitter.
With 2 C's.
2 C's.
Yeah, thick with 2 C's.
And Badger, and I know you got a special event. I'm sure we'll talk about a little bit more on Mayhem Show next week. But,
yeah, I'll be here next week talking about, especially after an email I got today. There's some crazy. I'm gonna be very busy this year.
Oh man.
But we'll get more into that. But I am Regina Honey Badger on Instagram, and then hold on, I gotta look again. Regina H Badger on Twitter. Or if you I'm not gonna be doing Facebook much longer, but for right now, if you type in my government issued name, Regina Badger, I should come up.
Good for you. Good for you.
There you go.
I would love to get off Facebook.
It's garbage.
I would love to get off.
It's just a garbage pile.
I can't. I'm stuck with social media. But I would love to get off.
Oh yeah, I was just having this conversation. If it wasn't for wrestling, I think
Yeah.
I would be one
Yeah.
of the few people that's like, I don't know what social media is because I'm just so disgusted with it.
And of course, if you want to be booked on Rise Wrestling, please send Spider-Man pictures
Yes.
to Marcus Mann.
Spider-Man
Correct.
picture. It's by pinned tweet, so
Or send him a picture of Danny DeVito as a penguin, or your favorite song from Weezer's The Red Album.
oh, jinx. We will fight about Weezer forever. Forever.
Wow. Thank you, everybody. And of course, a lot of the matches we talked about here are featured over on IndyWrestling.us and IndyWrestling.network. You can... It's amazing how that works.
Look how fast that was.
But go check all this out and a lot more happening with that. And if you have any thoughts on this, please comment on the video or the tweeters and everything along with this. I have a feeling we'll have more than a few comments on this. Thank you, everybody. Please subscribe to Indie Mayhem Show on your favorite podcast place. And until next time, please support Indie Wrestling.
Sick, you know how I act now. If you got a problem, come and see if I'm a back down. Act wild, steady sipping Jack now.
This show is a member of the Sorgatron Media Podcast Network. Find out more at sorgatronmedia.com.